picture this. You wake up, you skip breakfast, you pour yourself a cup of black coffee. You are following all the rules, doing everything the internet told you to do to optimize your fasting window. But when you step on the scale, it is just staring back at you.
Right.
The number isn't moving. Your energy is crashing by like 10:30 a.m. and you are honestly just feeling frustrated. You're putting in the work. So, what gives?
It is an incredibly common scenario. And it is usually the point where people they throw their hands up and declare that fasting just doesn't work for their body.
Yeah, they assume their metabolism is broken or something.
Exactly. They think they just aren't cut out for it.
But what if the problem isn't your metabolism, and what if the problem isn't even the fast itself? For this deep dive, we are pulling from a massive aggregate of endocrinology and sports nutrition research.
It's all put together in a breakdown by the YouTube channel Health Beacon, which is fantastic.
It really is. And our mission today is to uncover the specific biological window where coffee actually amplifies your fasting results, rather than, silently killing them.
Yes.
Okay, let's unpack this. The core premise here is wild because it tells us that the coffee itself isn't the enemy. The villain of the story is actually the timing.
We really need to completely reframe how we view that morning cup. I mean, most of us just see it as a warm beverage, right? Or a quick jolt of energy to get us out the door.
Guilt is charged.
But when you are fasting, coffee is not just a drink. You have to look at it through a pharmacological lens. It is an active compound that is literally changing your biochemistry.
I love that word, pharmacological. It makes me feel like a mad scientist in my kitchen.
You basically are.
But before we get into why the timing is wrong, we really need to understand what coffee's actually doing to your body when you haven't eaten anything. Because on a caloric level, a black cup of coffee is basically nothing, right? We're talking maybe 2 to 5 calories.
Yeah, calorically, it is essentially 0. It does not break a fast from an energy intake perspective at all.
Okay, good to know.
But biologically, it is triggering a massive cascade of events. The primary mechanism of caffeine is something called adenosine receptor antagonism.
Adenosine, right.
Yeah, adenosine is a neurotransmitter that slowly builds up in your brain the longer you are awake. Think of it like cellular exhaust.
Okay, so the more it builds up, the sleepier you feel.
Exactly. Caffeine has a chemical structure that is incredibly similar to adenosine. So it sneaks in and blocks those receptors. It essentially unplugs the sleep signal.
Which is why we suddenly feel like we can conquer the world after a few sips.
Yep.
But the source material points out that alertness is really just the surface level effect, right? The real magic for fasting happens deeper down with something called catecholamines.
Specifically epinephrine, which most people know as adrenaline.
Yeah.
When you consume caffeine, it triggers a surge of epinephrine right through your bloodstream.
So you're getting a literal adrenaline rush.
Yes, and that adrenaline acts as a signaling mechanism. It travels straight to your fat cells and literally knocks on the door, telling them to release stored fatty acids into the bloodstream to be burned for energy.
Oh, wow.
And that process is called lipolysis.
Okay, let me make sure I have this straight. So if fasting is the engine of weight loss, coffee is basically like hitting the nitrous button, forcing the body to pull out stored fuel.
The data backs up that exact analogy beautifully. What's fascinating here is a study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that looked at this directly.
What did they find?
They found that caffeine increases fat oxidation by about 11% in lean individuals.
Wait, 11% just from coffee?
Yeah. And for obese individuals, it increased fat oxidation by up to 29% over a 3-hour period.
29%. That is huge.
It is a massive, highly significant metabolic shift just from an everyday beverage.
And the research shows it's not just the act of fat burning either, right? It actually changes your baseline metabolism.
Yet, studies consistently show that caffeine can raise your basal metabolic rate or your BMR by anywhere from 3 to 11%.
So you are literally burning more calories just sitting in your chair.
Exactly. But there is one more crucial mechanism here that we have to talk about, and that's AMPK activation.
AMPK. I have seen this acronym thrown around like a lot in longevity and biohacking circles, but I've never fully understood how it works.
It's actually pretty simple. AMPK stands for AMP activated protein kinase. You can think of it like a strict cellular thermostat.
A thermostat, okay.
Yeah, so when the energy in your house or your body drops too low, the thermostat clicks on. It immediately shifts your cells away from storing energy and forces them to start burning what's already in the house to stay warm.
Oh, I see.
It signals to the body that energy is scarce, which promotes fat burning and actually mimics some of the cellular effects of caloric restriction.
Right, because you're fasting.
Fasting inherently activates AMPK. But coffee also enhances AMPK activation. So
Right.
when you combine them, you are layering these overlapping metabolic pathways.
Making them the perfect biological pair.
Exactly.
Okay, so if coffee is this incredible metabolic nitrous button and it works perfectly with fasting, why did we start this deep dive by talking about people whose weight loss has stalled?
That is the big question.
Yeah, like if the underlying biology is so synergistic, why is it failing so many people in practice?
Well, it all comes down to a biological mechanism called the cortisol awakening response, or CIR. This is where the timing collision happens.
Okay, let's dig into that cortisol awakening response, because cortisol gets a really bad rap. People hear cortisol and they immediately think stress hormone and just panic.
Cortisol is indeed a stress hormone, but, stress isn't universally bad. In the morning, cortisol is your absolute best friend.
How so?
When you wake up, your body naturally floods your system with cortisol. It reaches its peak within roughly 30 to 45 minutes of you opening your eyes.
So it's basically your biological alarm clock.
That's exactly what it is. It shakes off the sleep inertia, mobilizes energy from your liver, sharpens your focus, and really prepares you to face the day.
Okay, so the body handles the wake-up call completely on its own. But I'm guessing this is where the massive mistake happens. Most people literally stumble out of bed and head straight to the coffee maker.
Oh, absolutely.
They're drinking their first cup at 6 a.m., maybe 5 minutes after they woke up.
And that is the crucial error. When you do that, you are taking a powerful external stimulant, caffeine, and stacking it directly on top of your body's highest natural internal stimulant spike.
Oh, man. So you're just redlining the engine.
You are blasting a system that is already running at maximum output. And according to endocrinology literature, doing this has two major negative consequences for your fast.
Which are?
The first is dependency.
So you're essentially breaking your natural energy system.
Over time, yes.
Yes.
If you constantly flood your brain with external caffeine right when it's trying to produce its own cortisol, the brain eventually registers that it doesn't need to do the heavy lifting anymore.
It just gets lazy.
Exactly. It blunts your natural cortisol production. You become entirely dependent on the coffee to wake up. And the immediate punishment is that because you stacked the caffeine and the cortisol together, they both wear off at the exact same time.
Ah, the dreaded mid-morning crash, that 10:30 a.m. feeling where you suddenly need to take a nap under your desk.
Yep. And that crash is just the surface issue. The deeper problem is what happens to your fat storage.
Okay, this is the scary part.
Caffeine raises cortisol independently. When you stack it on top of the morning peak, you push your cortisol levels way beyond their optimal range into chronically elevated territory.
Wait, but if I'm pushing my body into extreme stress mode, shouldn't that burn more energy?
You would think so, but the body's survival mechanisms kick in. High cortisol activates an enzyme called lipoprotein lipase.
Lipoprotein lipase, what exactly does that do?
Think of it as a biological vacuum cleaner specifically located in your abdominal region. Yeah. When the body senses extreme, chronic stress-like starvation combined with massive stimulant spikes, it turns on that vacuum. It literally pulls circulating energy out of your blood and locks it away as visceral belly fat to protect your vital organs.
Wow. So what does this all mean? If I'm drinking coffee at 6 a.m. thinking it's going to kill my appetite and help me lose weight, I might actually be making myself more hungry and actively telling my body to store belly fat.
The irony is that you are working completely against your own goals.
Wow.
And, you touched on appetite, which brings us to the ghrelin connection.
Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, right?
Yes, your primary hunger hormone. Elevated cortisol directly elevates ghrelin. So that 6.0 a.m. coffee on an empty stomach might not suppress your appetite at all.
It actually makes it worse.
The cortisol spike can make you absolutely ravenous, which is why so many people break their fasts early. They just can't make it to noon because their hormones are screaming for food.
Okay, so the first thing in the morning habit has to go. We need to let the natural alarm clock ring on its own. So, when exactly is the golden window? When do we introduce the coffee safely?
Based on the pharmacokinetics of caffeine and that natural cortisol curve, the optimal window is 90 minutes to 2 hours after waking up.
90 minutes to 2 hours. Walk me through what is happening inside the bloodstream at that 90-minute mark.
At 90 minutes, your natural cortisol peak has done its job. It woke you up, and now it is starting its natural gradual descent.
Okay, so it's fading.
Right. By introducing caffeine at this exact moment, you are catching the falling cortisol. Instead of letting your energy drop, The caffeine steps in and blocks the adenosine that has just started to accumulate.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
It creates a beautiful, smooth secondary wave of focus without pushing you into chronic stress.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's almost like waiting for rush hour traffic to clear on the highway before you hit the gas pedal. You're working with the body's natural rhythm instead of causing a biochemical traffic jam.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. You are letting the traffic clear. And there's another massive benefit to waiting, and that's insulin.
Because you've been fasting?
Because you have been fasting all night and well into the morning, your insulin levels are incredibly low by this point. Low insulin is the key that unlocks fat burning.
So the doors are wide open.
Exactly. When the caffeine triggers that epinephrine surge we talked about earlier, there is no insulin blocking the way. The fat cells are highly sensitive, and the body readily pulls those fatty acids out of storage.
What if you are someone who works out in the morning? Like, a lot of people love training in a fasted state. How does this 90-minute rule apply to hitting the gym?
Fasted workouts are a fantastic tool, and the timing actually aligns perfectly. The Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition published data showing that consuming caffeine 30 to 60 minutes before a fasted workout significantly increases fat oxidation and performance.
So let's say you wake up at 7 a.m. and you plan to work out at 9:00 a.m.
Then your golden window to drink your coffee is right between 8:00 a.m. and 8:30 a.m.
So you're safely past the initial cortisol spike, but you're hitting the caffeine peak right as you start moving weights or running.
The synergy is incredible. In fact, the British Journal of Nutrition found that consuming caffeine before exercise after an overnight fast burns 11% more fat than if you took that exact same dose of caffeine after eating breakfast.
So the absence of food makes the drug work significantly better.
It really does.
Okay, so we've nailed the golden window, wait 90 minutes, drink it black, and we're good to go, right? Or are there other ways people are accidentally ruining this process?
Unfortunately, nailing the timing is really only half the battle. The source material outlines 5 major traps that completely wreck this protocol, starting with what we put in the cup. Additives.
I assume you mean the massive sugary lattes.
Well, the sugar is obvious, yes. The moment you add sugar, you spike insulin, and your fast is immediately over. But people get tricked by the smaller things, you know?
Like,
even a splash of regular milk or heavy cream contains protein and lactose. That protein stimulates an insulin response and triggers something called IGF-1.
IGF-1. What is that?
Insulin-like growth factor 1. It is a hormone that tells your cells to grow and build.
But fasting is about breaking down, right?
Exactly. Fasting is a state of breaking down and cleaning up. You cannot be in a building state and a burning state at the same time. When your body detects IGF-1 from that splash of milk, it switches gears, and the fat-burning benefits diminish rapidly.
What about the trendy stuff? Like, oat milk is everywhere right now.
Oat milk is notoriously high in carbohydrates. It absolutely breaks a fast, often worse than regular milk.
Okay, but what about artificial sweeteners? People swear by zero-calorie sweeteners because mathematically there are no calories to burn.
The math checks out, but human biology isn't just math. Several studies suggest that the sweet taste alone on your tongue can trigger a cephalic phase insulin response.
Right. Cephalic meaning relating to the head or the brain.
Exactly. When those sweet receptors on your tongue fire off, your brain assumes a massive wave of sugar is about to hit your stomach.
So it preemptively reacts.
It panics and preemptively dumps insulin into your bloodstream to deal with the sugar it thinks is coming. So even with 0 calories, that preemptive insulin strike shuts down your fast.
That is wild. So if you truly want to optimize, black coffee is the only definitively safe choice.
Black coffee is the only way to be sure.
All right, strictly black. But since it has no calories, could I just drink an entire pot of black coffee throughout the morning to keep the fat-burning engine running on high?
You'd think so, but that leads us straight into the next major trap, which is the dosage. Caffeine operates on a dose-response curve that eventually plateaus and then reverses.
Wait, really? So more adrenaline doesn't equal more fat burning?
No, because of the stress response. The sweet spot for metabolic benefits is 3 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight.
Okay, let's do the math on that.
For an average 75-kilogram person, that is roughly 225 to 450 milligrams.
Which translates to about 2 to 4 cups of standard drip coffee.
Right. If you exceed that, you stop increasing fat oxidation. Instead, you drive up your heart rate, increase anxiety, and push that cortisol back up into the danger zone.
And earlier, we established that high cortisol locks away belly fat. But If I'm starving my body of food and stressing it out with 6 cups of coffee, where is it getting the energy to function? Is it just attacking my fat stores faster out of desperation?
Actually, it does the exact opposite, leading to muscle catabolism.
Muscle breakdown.
Because your cortisol is through the roof, your body panics. It needs rapid glucose to deal with the perceived stress. Since you aren't eating carbs, it starts breaking down your lean muscle tissue to convert into glucose for energy.
I have to ask about that muscle breakdown. If someone is drinking 5 or 6 cups a day while fasting, thinking they're a fat-burning machine, are they literally burning away their own muscle mass?
They absolutely are. It completely reverses your intended results. You end up wired, stressed, and literally burning away your own muscle mass instead of fat.
That is a terrifying wake-up call for the 6-cup-a-day crowd.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it proves that fasting is a delicate hormonal balance, and abusing a stimulant can completely reverse your intended results.
Wow. Okay, what if I stay within the 2 to 3 cup limit, but I just spread them out, like have one at 9 a.m., one at noon, and one at 3 p.m. to beat the afternoon slump?
That brings us to the timing trap, and it comes down to your liver, specifically an enzyme called CYP1A2.
CYP1A2. Okay.
That's the chemical machinery responsible for clearing caffeine from your blood. For the average adult, caffeine has a half-life of roughly 5 to 7 hours.
Meaning if I have a cup at 2:00 p.m., half of that caffeine is still actively blocking adenosine sleep receptors in my brain at 7:00 p.m. or even 9:00 p.m.
Yes. And if you have a specific genetic variation affecting that CYP1A2 enzyme, you are considered a slow metabolizer. Your half-life could be 9 to 10 hours.
Oh my gosh.
That afternoon coffee is basically keeping your brain chemically awake until midnight, even if your body feels physically exhausted.
And poor sleep is the ultimate enemy of fat loss, right?
It destroys it. A landmark study from the Annals of Internal Medicine put 2 groups of people on the exact same caloric deficit. One group got adequate sleep, the other was sleep-deprived.
What were the results?
The sleep-deprived group lost 55% less fat.
Over half their fat loss potential just vanished entirely because of sleep.
Just from the sleep deprivation. Poor sleep elevates ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and it heavily suppresses leptin, which is your satiety hormone. So you wake up ravenous and never feel full.
So what's the rule here?
The rule is absolute. Cut your coffee off by noon, or 1:00 p.m. at the absolute latest.
What if someone tries this protocol? They wait 90 minutes, they drink it black, but it just makes their stomach hurt. Are they doomed to just suffer through nausea and acid reflux?
The gut reaction is very real, and that's trap number 4. Caffeine stimulates gastric acid secretion. When there is no food in your stomach to buffer that acid, it can really irritate the stomach lining.
That makes sense.
And the adrenaline response can also trigger real physical anxiety for some people, which ironically mimics the feeling of hunger.
So what is the fix for that?
Well, you can try pushing your coffee a little later into your fast so your system is more awake and stable. But a fantastic hack is to switch to cold brew.
Cold brew, because it's less acidic.
Exactly. The extraction method of using cold water over a long period makes cold brew significantly less acidic than hot brewed coffee. It gives you the exact same caffeine with far less gastrointestinal distress.
I love cold brew, so that is a major win. Okay, so anything else? Does all this intricate timing and biology mean the coffee is doing the actual weight loss work?
That is the 5th and final trap, the mindset trap. Coffee does not do the work. The caloric deficit does the work.
Right.
Fasting works because of the absence of food, the lowering of insulin, and the increase in fat-burning hormones. Coffee is just a magnifying glass.
So if I fast for 12 hours but eat in a massive caloric surplus during my feeding window, perfectly timed coffee will not save me.
Exactly. You cannot out-supplement or out-caffeinate a bad diet. The caloric deficit is the sun. The coffee just focuses the beam. You have to nail the fundamentals.
Okay, let's bring this all together for everyone listening who wants to overhaul their morning routine tomorrow. Here is the ultimate protocol we've unpacked today. When you wake up, do not touch the coffee maker.
Let your body's natural cortisol alarm clock ring.
Wait 90 minutes to 2 hours. When you do drink it, stick to 2 or 3 cups max, drink it completely black with no additives or sweeteners, and cut yourself off by noon to protect that crucial sleep window.
It is a phenomenal biologically sound protocol. But before we wrap up, there is one final piece of research from the source material regarding cellular repair that completely shifts the paradigm here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has to do with autophagy.
Autophagy, that is the body's internal recycling program, right? Where it cleans out damaged cells and repairs tissue while you fast.
Right. For a long time, the debate in the nutrition world was whether coffee breaks autophagy. But a 2014 study published in the journal Cell Cycle by researchers at the Buck Institute found something incredible.
What did they find?
They observed that coffee consumption triggered massive autophagy across the liver, muscle, and heart tissue in mice. But here's the fascinating part. It wasn't the caffeine doing it. Decaffeinated coffee triggered the exact same autophagic response.
Wait, really? Decaf, so it's not the stimulant that's repairing the
Oh,
cell?
no. The researchers concluded it is the polyphenols in the coffee, specifically compounds like chlorogenic acid.
That is amazing.
As long as you drink it black and don't spike your insulin, the coffee plant itself actually supports cellular repair. And it gets even better. They noted that EGCG, which is the primary antioxidant in green tea, is an even more potent activator of autophagy than coffee.
Hold on, if decaf does the same thing for cellular repair, then if I hit that 2:00 p.m. wall and I'm trying to protect my sleep, I could just switch to decaf or green tea. I'd get all the cellular repair without the caffeine half-life keeping me awake until midnight.
It is a brilliant strategy. It allows you to leverage the pharmacology of these plants for health and longevity without disrupting your delicate biological rhythms or your sleep architecture.
That completely changes the afternoon game plan. So here is your challenge for tomorrow morning. Try it. When you wake up, just drink a glass of water. Delay that first cup of coffee